1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. It looks like everything is running and operational. Let me go ahead and check the stream to make sure that it is running. We have good connection. Make sure that we are connected well over on YouTube and on Twitch. Checking all levels. And we are good. Let me see. Here we go. Check the volume. See. Yep, volume is good. Volume is good. And let me check over here. Go to my channel, check my channel, and it is correct. All right. Very good. Let's turn the volume down. Set and ready to go. All right. So, what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of the stream? The purpose of the stream is to show the acquisition of academic skills and rigor, and the main development of the basic skills that are necessary for the acquisition of knowledge, for the categorization of knowledge, and for the reproduction or the study of knowledge. Okay, and so let's see here. Go get the pen. There we go. How exactly am I going to be demonstrating this particular process? Okay, I'm going to be demonstrating this process through the use of Gregg Shorthand, a Gregg Anniversary Shorthand, to be precise, and the purpose for that is, let's see here, put this out of the line. There we go. The purpose for this is to demonstrate that it is possible to have a good and accurate approach to receiving information, to be able to grab ideas quickly and efficiently, and to do so in a way that is as fluid as possible and produces the least amount of effort or difficulty. So that's the acquisition of knowledge. The acquisition of knowledge. The purpose for categorization, or I should say, the way that I'm training my categorical methods of dealing with information, is that. Hold on, just moving something over here. Go. So the main method for being able to deal with the categorization of knowledge is using the method known as the slipbox method, or also by its German term, the Zettelkasten method. And this is the idea that every bit of information can be boiled down to its most concrete form that is completely independent of context and independent of any other thought. When you have this idea that has been truncated and formed as a complete unit, you then put this truncated bit of information in relation to other bits of information, and then this network, if you will, or this database of facts is then used for later cognition, for later understanding, and for later writing projects. The book in particular that I am deriving these or this knowledge from is How to Take Smart Notes by Sonke Ahrens. He is a professor of, I believe it's sociology. He is a writer and researcher in the field of education and social science. So that is on the back of the book. Self-published, and he published it in 2017. This is a new version from 2022, and in this he is laying out the case for the necessity for taking notes in this more concretized and atomic fashion, and moving away from the more traditional methods of study techniques such as underlining, writing excerpts, just collecting quotes. He says that that information those methodologies are rather unhelpful in the area of developing understanding in the realm of academia and nonfiction writing. So with those two areas, or those two tools are my main area of study at the moment, and so therefore that is the purpose of this stream, is to demonstrate the acquisition of that knowledge. Richard Feynman said that you can understand, you demonstrate that you understand something by being able to teach it, by being able to give an introductory lecture. And so because I am quite new to the use of note taking, or this particular avenue of note taking, and also a relative newbie in the realm of shorthand work. I therefore feel that it is best to demonstrate to the rest of the world the learning process, because in so doing, I become faster, I become better at learning, I have a more robust connection to my own academic endeavors, and it's a way of keeping one honest, right? You can't lie about your progress when it's all streamed. So treat this as a gym session in which I sit here and I struggle for all of your enjoyment, and you're welcome to join in and make sure that you're only throwing the ripest of tomatoes and the rottenest of eggs. So, with that being said, if you are interested in purchasing a copy of the book yourself, it is linked down in the description, I believe. Let me go ahead and check that quickly so that I'm not speaking out of turn. Let me go to the description here on YouTube. And this, I'm not sure exactly how you are accessing the page, but let's see here. If we go to the description, show more. Yes, so there is in the description below, you have access to the Amazon page where you can get Sonke Ahrens' book, How to Take Smart Notes. You also have access to the Wacom Tablet and the blue light blocking glasses. In case you're interested, they are fantastic. I really appreciate these glasses. They have significantly reduced my eye strain. So if you're interested, go take a look at those. And then let's see what else. I have the link to my Gregg shorthand library. So as you see, when I'm doing my work on writing and I need to do a word lookup, I have a website that I created, free open source. It's available on GitHub for you to take a look at, and if you type in a word to the search bar, then you are presented with the stroke, or sometimes the segment of a stroke. It'll show you where that segment appears in other words. You can switch it back and forth between normal and mirrored mode in case you are doing left or right-handed shorthand work. And if you are interested in supporting me, I have my Ko-fi and Patreon links down below as well. If you want to support a student out, then by all means go ahead and take a look at that. And without further ado, let us begin the process. So I am currently on page number 90 of the book, and we are just completing. Move the light here so I can see this a little bit better. There we go. So I am currently going through section 11.1 of the book, How to Take Smart Notes, and we have just gone through a description of the author Anthony Trollope, his ability to read or to produce significant amounts of information and knowledge by being deliberate and producing information at a good constant pace. That's the key. The key is to be constant in all things. All right. So with that, now we move forward, and here's our next paragraph. We had started working on it just the last stream about an hour ago, and with that, here we begin. We were on the colon. And they almost always take significantly more time than expected. What he's speaking of there is all of the various ancillary activities to doing academic writing. He says academic writing is quite different from fictional writing, in that you have a lot of auxiliary duties that are necessary to produce the ideas that are worth understanding and worth considering and worth bringing to the larger community. All right, so now we go ahead and begin. Move over here. If you ask academic or nonfiction writers, if you ask academic or non-fiction writers, students or professors, comma, students or professors, students or professors is P-R-O and then F, profs. Let's go ahead and check and make sure that that is correct. So I've got the dictionary pulled up over here. And that's proffer, so we're looking for professor. There we go. So this requires the full name, so we go ahead and add that here. We have professor, professors, all right, students or professors, how much time they expect it would take, how much time they would expect it to take them. How much time they expect, and expect, explain, expect. Those are two that any of those words that have the exp, there's a lot of truncation that goes into producing those forms, and so therefore you end up with cases like expect, where expect and explain are somewhat similar to each other, but they have a little bit of differentiation. And in this case, we have expect, exp. How much time they expect it would take them to finish a text. They expect it would take them. It would take them to finish. Let's finish is actually F-N-S-H. Finish a text. They systematically underestimate the time they need. They systematically underestimate the time it would take them to finish a text. They systematically underestimate the time they need. Let me check and see if that is indeed estimate. So if we look up estimate, go back over, make sure that we are in segment mode. On the correct, we're in segment mode. There we go. Search. We need to be in segment mode, and we need to be in mirrored mode. There we go. Light and dark. All right, so let's go ahead and check this. So we need estimate. And there's estimate. So it's actually estim 8 on the top portion. So let's go ahead and make that change. Underestimate still is the same. We have the under prefix, and then we go timate. Estimate, like so. Underestimate the time they need. Okay? They underestimate the time they need. Should be made smaller, by the way. Come on. Done. I do not need this full screen. There we go. I want to pull up the chat so I can make sure nothing comes through, because I don't have access to the chat elsewhere. Where's my chat? Oh, Interesting. It's locked down, isn't it? Huh. Sorry, I'm just over here messing around on my viewer over here. Go back here, go in, turn this way. There we go. All right, that's better. Okay, back to work. The joys of learning how to stream, correct? So they need they systematically underestimate the time they need, even when they were asked to estimate the time. So we then do hyphen, even when they are asked to estimate the time. Even when they are asked to estimate the time. Estimate the time they estimate the time under the worst case, to estimate the time under the worst case scenario. Under the, and then worst case scenario. Scenario is a term I haven't had to use yet. So let's see. That would be scenario, scenario, maybe. Let's see if that works. So we have scenario. Oh, but it would flip the other way because that'd be scenario. So let's try this. Scenario. Let's see if that is correct. And a slight variant. So we do need, it wants more of a SA, scenario, as opposed to se. So we go under scenario. There's scenario. Under the worst case scenario. And that one was hyphenated for worst case. And if the real conditions turned out to be quite favorable. And if the worst, and if the real conditions, and if the real conditions turned out to be quite favorable. Turned out to be quite then favorable. Favorable is going to be FAV and then B, I believe. Let's see, here we go. FAV R and then B. Let's see. FAB R. FAV R and then B. Favorable. Even easier than that is just FAB. FAB. Okay? So let's go ahead and clean this up. We move this down. We need FAB. There's favorable. All right? And if the real conditions turned out to be quite favorable, and that one was Kahneman, 2013, page 245, reference F. So Kahneman is going to be Kahneman, 2013, 245, so page 245, 245, FF, that's paragraph FF. On top of that, so that was the end of that sentence there, so we then move down, and we have the next one. On top of that, half of all doctoral thesis will stay unfinished forever. On on top of that, all, or what was it? Half of all, on top of that, colon, half of all doctoral theses, half of all doctoral, and then theses, curves, theses, will stay unfinished, will stay unfinished forever. Forever, and that's underlined. That was according to Lonka 2003, page 113. Lonka 2003, page 113, right? Yes, page 113. And then next sentence, academic and nonfiction writing. Academic and non-fiction writing is not as predictable, is not as predictable, and predictable is this one is predictable. Is that predictable? Let me check. And that is indeed correct. The only thing is, let's go ahead and clean up the delineation between the K and the B. So we'll go predictable. So there we go. That is predictable as a Trollope novel. As a Trollope novel. And the work it involves, and the work it involves, let's see if that is involves or if it requires more. Nope, that is enough for involves. Excellent. Let's go ahead and add a page below this, by the way. This is page 4. How to take smart notes. Section 11. This is page 4. All right. Moving back over here. And this one was involve. It involves, so let's make that plural, certainly, and the work it involves certainly can't be broken down to something like 1 page a day. And the work it involves certainly, so we'll go certainly, can't be broken down, cannot be. So let's make that a phrase. We have cannot be broken, so broken down. Next line over. Cannot be broken down into something like, quote, a page a day, unquote. End of sentence, end of paragraph. Go back to the previous line, find the beginning of our paragraph, and we begin reading through, searching, paragraph marker. We have 2008, so we are past that level there. There's our 2013. That's Conman. Searching. Could be, we're looking for academic. Academic is the word academic or nonfiction writers. So here's the end before breakfast. If you ask, that's if you ask academic. So this one was 2008. And mind you, that was all before breakfast. And then, did I skip a line, I wonder? Mind you, that was all before breakfast. Here's academics. So let's go ahead and drop a paragraph marker here, and we are ready to go. Alrighty, so here we begin with the highlighter. Academic or nonfiction texts are not written like this because in addition to the writing, there is the reading and research and thinking and the tinkering with ideas, and they almost always take more time than expected. If you ask academic or nonfiction writers students or professors, how much time, let's fix much, let's make it a little bit longer of a tail for the CH, how much time they expect it would take them to finish a text. They systematically underestimate the time they need, even when they are asked to estimate the time under the worst case scenario. And if the real conditions turned out to be quite favorable. That was according to Kahneman, 2013, page 245, and FF. Let's see, this is one top. On top of that, half of all doctoral theses will stay unfinished forever, according to Lonka 2003, page 113. Academic and nonfiction writers is not as predictable as a Trollope novel, and the work it involves certainly cannot be broken down into something like a page a day. New paragraph. It does make sense to break down the work into manageable and measurable steps. It does make sense to break the work down into manageable, so manageable. The B is just a little bit too long, so we'll make the M longer, J, and then curve for the B right there. Manageable and measurable steps, and then measurable is measure, and then measurable. Let's go ahead and see if that is correct. And that is indeed, that is immeasurable, but we'll take that for measurable. So let's go ahead and move it up the line though. We have me, and then we need to curve down though to make the SH. So we have measurable, like so. Steps, STP, STEP, and then S. Comma, but pages per day don't work. But pages per day, pages per day don't work that well as a unit. Don't work that well as a unit. See, unit is, I'm sure it needs the V vowel, and it does. Otherwise it'd be unt. Does not work well as a unit. When you also have to read, do research, and think. When you also have to read, do research, and think. Period. But even though academic and nonfiction writing involves more of other types of work than fiction, I need to turn this a little bit so I can read it a little better. Pardon me, just 1 second. To shift the whole unit over so that it's more in the light. There we go. All right, so where was I? But even though academic and nonfiction writing involves more of other types of work, so let's go ahead and do that much. But even though academic or nonfiction, academic and nonfiction writing, academic and non-fiction writing involves more of other types of work, more involves, so that was the involves more of other types of work than fiction writing. Comma. Lumen managed to beat Trollope in productivity. So we have Lumen managed to beat Trollope comma, if you count in productivity, if you count his articles as well as his books. In productivity, if you count his articles, so that goes articles, ARTKLS. Let's go check that. Oh, that's right. This is a disjointed. So we go AR for art. We have art here, and then the K value. So that's articles. And so he would beat him articles and as well as his books, as well as his books. Okay. Keep on going, as well as his books. Period. And then let's now look at the productivity of Lumen. Lumen wrote 58 books. Lumen wrote 58 books and hundreds of articles and hundreds of articles. While Trollope wrote 47 novels, comma. While Trollope wrote 47 books. 47 novels, I take that back. 47 novels. Plus 16 other books. Plus 16 other books. Granted, it might have something to do with the fact, and here we have good old Sonke's sense of humor coming in here. Here we go, this is granted. Granted, comma. It might have something to do with the fact. It might have something to do with the fact that Lumen did some work after breakfast as well. The fact that Lumen did some work after breakfast as well. So as you remember in the previous paragraph, it was said that most of Trollope's work was done before breakfast. So breakfast. So come on now. breakfast. There we go. Written, did some work after breakfast as well. But the main reason is the slip box. But the main reason is the slip box, comma, which compares to Trollope's technique, which compares to Trollope's technique technique as investing, which compares to Trollope's technique as investing with compounded interest compares to a piggy bank. Oh boy, Sonke, you're doing it again. I love it. I love it. But the main reason is the slip box, which compares to Trollope's technique as investing compares with compounded interest. With compounded, let me look up. I need to look up investing to make sure that that's not even more short. Invest. No, that is invest with, and then compound. Compounded. There's compounded. So we go compounded interest compares to a piggy bank. Compares to a piggy bank. So cute. Piggy hyphenated bank. Trollope is like a diligent saver. So we go Trollope is like, and then diligent. So this is diligent. It's a perfect example of the gent ending. Should be curved down a little bit more for diligent. Diligent saver. Like so. So I'm going to look up diligent. Beautiful. That's exactly what it is. A diligent and then saver. I'm going to assume that saver. Oh, try that again over here. I didn't expect saver to be a word, but save is, and then we just add an R to that, and that's saver. Let me make sure that that's not savior. That would be savior. So possibly in order to make sure that we differentiate between saver, and savior, we'll simply take the S value for save, and we just do a disjointed R below that to get the value. So there's saver. Trollope is like a diligent saver who puts a little sum to the side, who puts a little something to the side each day. Is that side, is that correct? Correct, correct. A little something to the side every day. Trollops technique, every day, which adds up over time to the side. Every day, which adds up over time toward something impressive. Toward something that is impressive. Toward something that is impressive. Impressive. Let's see if that is correct. And that is correct. So let me just go ahead and curve this up just a little higher. Move this here. Impressive. Okay. Period. $3 put aside each day. $3, I believe, is that. Let's take a look at dollars. It's just the D-O. D-O for dollar. $3 put aside, and aside is here, each day, check and make sure that that is each, the curve, yes, that is each day. Say 1 takeout coffee. Over here we have, say, comma, 1 take out coffee. 1 takeout coffee, and takeout is actually a 1 word, so I need to add that to the dictionary because that's take out. Takeout has been added. 1 takeout coffee. Adds up over the year to a small vacation. Say 1 takeout coffee. Adds up over the year to a small vacation. Adds up over the year to a small vacation. Vacation. About $1,000. And $1,000, I remember if you do that, you can do like 1,000. What was it? It was 1,000. Yeah, there we go. $1,000. So we can do 1,000. That is $1,000, like so. A few $1,000s. Okay. And over a working life to a deposit on a flat. And over a working life. And over a working life to a deposit on a flat. To deposit on a flat. Let me check and make sure that that is deposit to a flat. F-L-A-T. F-L-A. Ooh, wait, that's not correct for flat. I know that. But I need to check deposit first. Deposit does not require the T. I didn't think it did, but it's good to confirm. Deposit on and then flat is FL AT. FL Flate. I think it probably curves. I'll check. It does curve on the inside. Flat. Like so. As a permanent holiday retreat. As a permanent holiday retreat. And holiday is going to be holiday. Let's see if that is holiday. The E goes on the interior of the curve, so we'll replace that. Holiday, and then retreat is retreat. Let's see if that is correct. It's even easier. It's just an R. R with a T below it. So we go R and then T for retreat. Okay? And about $30,000 adjusted for inflation. That's the amount if you, over a working life, if you put $3 aside every day, over a working life, you'll end up with around $30,000 adjusted for inflation. Okay, so we have about $30,000. So that's going to be 30. We could do 30 and then $1,000, like so. $30,000 adjusted for inflation. Adjusted. So that's adjusted, I believe. Let's check that out. Curves the other way, but it is the concept. And then adjusted, it is going to need the disjointed T. So I'm going to go ahead and put the A on the front of the line of writing, and then it curves down, and then the T goes below. So we have adjusted for, and then inflation. So we have inflation, like so. Go ahead and close down the quote, square bracket. And then he goes back to the note, which is putting notes into the slip box. Putting notes into the slip box, however, is like investing. However, and however should probably, does it do the E as well? Interesting that I haven't had to do that one in a while. However, it's just halve, so there's no need for the aspirate, and there's also no need, undo. There's also no need for the eval. So we go, however, comma, is like investing. And reaping the rewards of compounded interest. Like investing and reaping the rewards. And now rewards, I believe. Let's go ahead and check that out. R-E and then D. The rewards of compounded interest. So we go compounded interest, which would, in this example, almost pay for the whole flat. Fascinating. So we're going to go ahead and open up parenthesis, which would, in this example, which would, in this example, almost pay for the whole flat. And the reference there, about $200,000 if you take the 7%. So that is the square bracket here, and we have about $200,000. So that's $200,000. Oh, and that's $1,000 if you take the 7%. If you take the 7% if you take the 7% of the S&P 500 of the, and then S turns away from the line of writing, of the S and P curves away 500 achieved historically, and achieved is H, I believe that's achieved. It requires the E as well. Achieved, and then historically, see if that is correct. The only change is that this needs to curve a little bit more, and then the K would require a little E on the end. So there's historically. Achieved historically. Adjusted for inflation. Adjusted for inflation. Adjusted for inflation. Square bracket, close. And then that was the end of that would be the end of the paragraph. So now we go back and we reread the paragraph to put it in context. So we go square bracket, we're looking for the 47 is right there. The 47 books, we're looking for the liner page a day as the page a day quote. Here we go. So here is our paragraph marker, and we go ahead and start. Highlighter. It does make sense to break the work down into manageable and measurable steps, but pages per day don't work as well. Fix this for don't really does require a longer upstroke, and then it curves right at the top for the end. Don't. So they don't work as well as unit when you also have to read, to research, and think about even and think. But even though academic and nonfiction writing involves more of other tasks, more of more other types of work than fiction writing. In fiction writing, Luhmann managed to beat Trollope on productivity if you count his articles as well as his books. Luhmann wrote 58 books and hundreds of articles, while Trollope wrote 47 novels plus 16 other books. Granted, it might have something to do with the fact that Luhmann did some work after breakfast as well. But the main reason is the slipbox, which compares to Trollope's technique as investing with compounded interest compares to a piggy bank. Trollope is like a diligent saver who puts a little something to the side every day, which adds up over time toward something that is impressive. Hold on. I'll be right back. Just 1 second. All right. Hello, hello. Back at it. Let me go ahead and get my glasses on. My good old Gunnar glasses that if you're interested in, you can take a look at below this. Hold on. Can't see without my glasses. Hold on. I think. Did I leave them? I did. I left them up here. Ah. Okay. Back at it. Now you see them. Now you don't. Okay. As I said, these glasses, these are really wonderful study glasses available on Amazon. So you can take a look at that and see if it's something that you're interested in. All right, so let's go. Just checking to make sure that everything is still running as it should. All right, so let's go. Appears to be. Let us proceed. So I was just reading through the paragraph talking about the difference between Trollope's and Luhmann's technique, namely the writing every single day versus the creation of a slip box. And so that's the section that we're on right now. See where I was, or where was I? Right here at this point, I believe. So let's go ahead and check that out. Minimize the stream here. Close that. Come on. Oh, doesn't want to. There we go. All right, so we were on this word right here, which is, this was improve. Impressive. This is impressive. Right? And this one is $3. Yeah, that's right. $3 per put aside each day, say one takeout coffee, add up $3 a day, add up over time, over the year, to a small vacation, $1,000, and over a working life to a deposit on a flat as a permanent holiday retreat, about $30,000 adjusted for inflation. Putting notes into a slip box, putting notes into a slip box, however, is like investing and putting and reaping the rewards of compounded interest, which would in this example almost pay for the whole flat, about $200,000 if you take the 7% of the S&P 500 achieved historically, adjusted for inflation. What a fact. What a fact. All right, now going on. Next paragraph. And likewise, the sum of the slip box content. Here we go. This is almost a little geometric right here. And likewise, comma, the sum of the slip box, and likewise, I know that wise is this term right here. This is wise. So would you just put it underneath likewise? Or it could also be liewise, which would look like this. Liewise. I'm thinking that it's probably that, but let's go ahead and check. So it's a variation. You actually take the L and you curve back and over the top and then do the diphthong connected inside. So this is liewise. And likewise, comma, the sum of the slipbox content of the slipbox content is worth much more than the sum of the notes. Is worth, let me make sure that that is worth, correct, is worth much more than the sum of the notes. So what does that mean? It means that more notes, or actually he explains it here, more notes mean more possible connections. So you end up having almost a, that is the idea of the compounding. There are more, there's an exponential or a geometric expansion of the number of notes based on the number of connections. But before I do that, let me go ahead and add the next page. How to take smart, confirm that, yep, how to take smart notes, section 11, page, this is page 5. Okay. Going back up here, the notes. More notes mean more possible connections. More notes mean more possible connections, comma, more ideas. More synergy between different projects. More, we'll have to look up the word synergy, but I think I can go synergy. Let's see if synergy is this form. Synergy. Let's check and see. Synergy is not a term, but we could use energy. Let's look up energy. And that's energy. Let's look up just ERG. Clergy, energy, and clergyman. So we can use the same format as clergy. So synergy is going to be the same ending. So what I need to do is I need to kind of clean it up a little bit. This is synergy, and then I will add that to the dictionary a little later. It's enjoyable to get to the point in the what was this? SY, how to spell that? SYNERG. It's enjoyable to get to the point in working with my own dictionary where I don't have to add as many words. Now, part of that is because I'm beginning to reach or to max out the level of Sonke Ahrens vocabulary, but as I move to other texts, I will probably see surprising cases where I have to add more words. Okay, so we have synergy. More synergy between different projects. More synergy between different projects. And therefore, a much higher degree of productivity. And therefore, a much higher degree of productivity. And therefore, a much more, or a much higher degree of productivity. And let's go ahead and put that on another line so it's a little bit clearer to see. Productivity. Period. Lumen's slipbox contains about 90,000 notes. Lumen's slipbox contains about, I need to check contains to see if, to make sure that's not a shortened form. And it is. So we just do con and then tn. So contains about 90,000 notes. 90,000 notes. In Gregg, you can show 1,000 by just doing a th underneath. So 90,000 notes. That's incredible. Which sounds like an incredibly, I must have read ahead. So, which sounds like an incredibly large number. Which sounds like an incredibly large number. Incredible is going to be incredible. Let's see if this is correct. Incredible. Let me confirm. Incredible. And that is correct. The only difference would be incredibly. We add an E to the end of that, to the end of the stroke, and we end up with incredibly. Incredibly large number. And large is large number. But it only means that he wrote 6 notes a day. Think of this. But it only means that he wrote 6 notes a day from the day he started, Let's curve this a little bit more. From the day he started to work with his slipbox, he started to work with his slipbox until he died. That is incredible to think. 6 notes a day from the time he started working on it until the day he died. And let me just check died, and that is, yep, that is correct for died. So let's go ahead and move the D down just a little bit though. And there we go. Amazing, amazing. Okay, so now we go ahead and read back through from the previous paragraph, which is here. And let me begin, highlighter. And likewise, the sum of the slipbox contains of the contents. The slipbox contents is worth much more than the sum of the notes. More notes mean more possible connections, more ideas, more synergies, more synergy between different projects, and therefore a much higher degree of productivity. Lumen's slipbox contains about 90,000 notes, which sounds, I need to check sound. I'm pretty sure it requires a diphthong. Nope, it doesn't. It's just S and D. which sounds, or was that? There it is, which sounds like an impressive, an incredibly impressive number, but it only means that he wrote 6 notes a day from the day he started to work with the slipbox until he died. Wow. If you, by any chance, don't have the ambition to compete with him, so here's the next paragraph. If you, by any chance, by any chance, comma, don't have the ambition to compete with him, don't have the ambition, probably. Let's go ahead and check that. Oh, okay. I was wrong. It's amb. It does require the AMB. I remember being surprised by that before. If you, by any chance, don't have the ambition to compete with him, to compete with him, let me go ahead and check compete. No need for the T, it's just compete. To compete with him, don't have the ambition to compete with him in terms of books per year, to compete with him in terms of books per year, you could settle for 3 notes a day. You could settle for 3 notes a day and still build up a significant critical mass. And still build up a critical mass of ideas in a very reasonable time. Of ideas in a very reasonable time. Period. And you could settle for less than 1 book every 12 months. And you could settle for less than one book every 12 months. Months. Period. In contrast to manuscript pages per day, in contrast contrast to manuscript pages. What is the actual pages? Is it that? Pages per day. A certain number of notes a day is a reasonable goal. So, comma. A certain number of notes a day is a reasonable goal for academic writing. A certain number of notes per day. A certain number of notes a day is a reasonable goal, is a reasonable goal for academic writing. For academic writing. Period. And that is because taking a note and sorting it, and that is because taking a note and sorting it into the slip box can be done in one go. While writing a manuscript page, could involve weeks and months. Could involve weeks and months of preparation. Let me see if, because that is prepare, and so preparation probably just has the little sh symbol thrown on the end. Let's check that out. And that is correct. Weeks and months of preparation involving other tasks. Involving other tasks as well. You could therefore measure your daily productivity. You could therefore measure your daily would be curve on the other side, I think. Your daily productivity by the number of notes written. By the number of notes written. And that's the end of this sentence, and also the end of section 1, 11.1. So now I go back over and I reread this to make sure that I'm staying abreast of the reading of the shorthand. And I'm going through looking for the last paragraph marker. If I forgot it, then I'm looking for if by chance. So this is 90,000 notes. So we're looking for if by. And there we go. If you by any chance don't have the ambition to compete with him in terms of books per year, you could settle for 3 notes a day and still, let's clean still up just a little bit, and still build up a critical mass of, I need to check critical because that one, I know it should be a K, or I'm thinking that it should be a K, but I know I'm wrong, and that is correct. So it should be this circle. So yay for me, I'm learning. So critical mass of ideas in a very reasonable time. And you could settle for less than 1 book every 12 months. In contrast to manuscript pages per day, a certain number of notes a day is a reasonable goal for academic writing. And that is because taking a note and sorting it into the slip box can be done in one go, while writing a manuscript page could involve weeks or months of preparation, involving other tasks as well. You could therefore measure your daily productivity by the number of notes written. That's a very good way to think of it. It's a very good way to think of it. Now we move on to section 11, or 11.2. 11.2. And this one is labeled as think outside the brain. So we have think out. Oh, interesting. Outside is 2 diphthongs put together. It's out, and then it would be side. Outside? Let's check and see what the what my dictionary says. It is indeed 2 diphthongs put together. So let's go ahead and put that in. Think outside the brain. Think outside the brain. New line. Taking literature notes is a form of deliberate practice. Taking literature notes is a form of practice, is a form of deliberate practice. of deliberate practice, as it gives us feedback on our understanding, as it gives us feedback on our understanding, or lack of it, or lack of it. While the effort to put into our own words, while the effort to put into our own words the gist of something, the gist of something, is at the same time the best approach, is at the same time the best approach. To understanding what we read. To understanding what we read. And that was the end of the paragraph. So now we read back over. That was just a one sentence. Here we go. Think outside the brain. Taking literature notes is a form of deliberate practice as well. A deliberate practice, as it gives us feedback on our understanding or lack of it. While the effort to put, so I need to clean up to put, while the effort to put into our own words, into our own words, the gist of something, is it the words, the gist of something is at the same time the best approach to understanding what we read. Next paragraph. Taking permanent notes of our own thoughts. Taking permanent notes of our own thoughts is a form of self-testing as well. Is a form of self-testing as well. Do they still make sense in writing? Do they still make sense in writing? I need to check one of those. I needed to check was self-test. Self-test is not in there, so I'm going to go ahead and add that later. Okay, so there's self-test is an example of self-testing as well. Do they still, go ahead and fix this here, undo. Do they still make sense in writing? And moving forward, are we even able to get the thought on paper? Are we even able to get the thoughts on paper? No, I need to check able. Able is long stroke. It's an A, B, and then L below. So let's go ahead and delete this guy and add it below. There's able. And then paper. Thought on paper. Do we have the references, facts, and supporting? Do we have the references, facts, and supporting? Sources at hand? Let me check sources. I'm pretty sure curves under. Hopefully that's not too much, but we'll see. Yes, close enough, close enough. At hand, and that was a question. And at the same time, writing it is the best way. And at the same time, and at the same time, writing it is the best way to get our thoughts in order. Writing it is the best way to get our thoughts in order. Writing here too is not copying. Writing here too is not copying. So copying. But translating. I need to check copying. That's correct. Is not copying, comma, but translating. But translating from one context and from one medium to another. From one context, we need to add another page here. Save the page and then add another page below it. This is how to take smart notes. Section 11 still. This is page 6. From one context, translating. Parenthesis. From one context and from one medium to another. From one context and from one medium to another. Let me check medium. Correct. The DM needs to be just a little bit longer. To another. Let me check another. Correct. Okay. And that was the no written piece is ever a copy of a thought in our mind. Here we go. Oh, to another. And that was the end of the parenthesis, and that's the end of the sentence. And then we go on. No written piece is ever a copy of a thought in our mind. No written piece is ever a copy of a thought in our mind. End of paragraph. Now we go back through and read that paragraph. Going over, there's the paragraph marker. That's a little bit too high up though, because there were already 2 paragraphs in place. And there it is. So we're going to go taking permanent notes. So go down here, grab the highlighter, taking permanent notes of our own thoughts is a form of self-testing as well. Do they still make sense in writing? Are we even able to get the thought on paper? Do we have the references, facts, and supporting sources at hand? And at the same time, writing it is the best way to get our thoughts in order. Writing here to is not copying, but translating from one context and from one context and from one medium to another. No written piece. Just 1 second. No written piece is, let's go ahead and fix this here. This goes to a P here. No written piece is ever a copy of a thought in our mind. Next paragraph. Next paragraph. When we take permanent notes, when we take permanent notes, comma, it is much more a form of thinking. It is much more a form of thinking it is much more a form of thinking within the medium of writing, within the medium of writing and in dialogue, medium of writing and in dialogue. Let's see. Is that dialogue? That's probably dialogue. Let's go ahead and check it out. Dialogue. It does require the G. So we go here. Open up the dialogue. There's dialogue. And in dialogue with the already existing notes. And in dialogue with the already existing, so that's exist. Let's see if that is exist. Isn't exist a double S? Let's see. Yep, it is just a double S. Boy, I haven't seen that word in a while. Existing. So let's see here. With the already existing notes within the medium of, within the slip box. So the already existing notes within the slip box. The already existing notes within the slip box. Then a protocol of preconceived ideas. Then a protocol. That might be protocol. Let's go ahead and check it. Correct. Then a protocol of preconceived ideas. Any thought of a certain complexity requires writing. Any thoughts of a certain complexity. Let's see if that's complexity. Correct. Requires writing. Period. Coherent arguments require the language to be fixed. Coherent. That does not look correct, but let's go ahead and check it. Requires the E between the R and the NT, and then there has to be the H. Coherent. Coherent arguments require the language to be fixed. require the language to be fixed. Okay. Let me check fixed. Not quite sure. It does. It is joined. Okay. To be fixed. Requires the language to be fixed, comma, and only if something is written down is it fixed. And only if something is written down is it fixed. Enough to be discussed. Fixed enough to be discussed. Go ahead and check discussed. Correct. So we just need to get rid of the S. No need for that. To be discussed. And only discussed independently from the author. Independently. So here's his point again where we go independent, I believe is independently. Correct. And therefore, if you put an E on it, then you get independently. From the author. From the author. The brain alone is too eager to make us feel good. The brain alone, is too eager to make us feel good. Hyphens. I need to check eager. Correct, for eager, to make us feel good. Even if it is by politely ignoring. Scroll down. Even if it is by politely ignoring. By politely. Let's see if that is polite. No need for the T. And then if we do politely, then you just put the circle on the back. Politely. Like so. Politely ignoring inconsistencies in our thinking. Even if it is by politely ignoring inconsistencies in our thinking. So we have ignoring inconsistencies, and then inconsistencies. Let's see what inconsistence is. inconsistent, and inconsistency is just the N and then SE ending. So we go inconsistency, like so. And then inconsistencies, you simply add an S to that. Inconsistencies in our thinking. In our thinking. Literally. So we have oh yes, here's literally. Period. We need this distance to think about an argument. We need this distance. Distance. Isn't that just ds? Let's check that. Nope, it is the dst and then the tns. dstns. dstns. It is the distance. We need this distance to think about an argument. To think about an argument. Otherwise, the argument itself see if that's otherwise. Oh, just the authors. There's otherwise. The argument itself would occupy the very mental resources. Would occupy, so that would be OKP. Let's see if that's occupy. Correct? Would occupy the very mental resources we need for scrutinizing it. Would occupy the very mental resources. Resource, so we go resources. We can see if that is correct. That's recourse. We need resource. And resources is a simple turn in the opposite direction. Back in on itself. Yes. Good. Mental resources would occupy the very mental resources we need for scrutinizing it. We need for, and then scrutinizing. So scrutinizing. How would they? I'm not sure exactly how Gregg would want that done. SKR, scrutinizing. So we go scrutinizing. Possibly that. Let's go ahead and check. The only necessary bit is to add the S. Other than that, that was correct. So we go screw, and then it curves up, SK, and then down, SK, down, scrutinizing, like so. We need for scrutinizing it. We go back up when we take permanent notes. Find the paragraph marker. When we, that is, when we, this is much more. Going back over previous section, when we, these are the questions. These are the questions which were earlier. It should be somewhere down here, and here it is right here. When we take permanent notes, it is much more a form of thinking within the medium of writing and in dialogue with the other existing notes within the slip box than a preconceived, than a protocol slip box, than a protocol of preconceived ideas. Any thought of a certain complexity requires writing. Coherent arguments require the language to be fixed, and only if something is written down is it fixed enough to be discussed independently from the author. The brain alone is too eager to make us feel good, even if it is by politely. Yes, politely. Let me go ahead and make the P just a little bit more pronounced. Even if it is by politely ignoring inconsistencies in our thinking. Literally. Yeah. Okay, so it was the brain alone is too eager to make us feel good. Literally. We need this distance to think about an argument. And then that argument, otherwise, the argument itself would occupy the very mental resources we need for scrutinizing it. Fascinating idea. So the idea there is that your brain can only do a certain number of tasks. If you are attempting to hold an idea in your mind at the same time that you are attempting to determine if it's true or not, your brain is more likely to hide or obfuscate the fact that you don't have as good a grasp of the concept as you think, and so therefore you can't be as critical of it as you would hope to be. Fascinating. And going forward, as we write notes with an eye towards existing notes, new paragraph. As we write notes with an eye towards existing notes, as we write notes with an eye towards existing notes, comma, we take more into account. We take more into account than the information that is already available. Then the information that is already available. Let's check. Wait, available is available, I believe. I think it requires the full structure. Available. And it even requires the extra A. So we go available. Okay. When we take permanent notes, we were on available. We take more into account than the information that is already available in our internal memory. In our internal memory. Okay? Period. That is extremely important. That is extremely. So that one would be extremely. Let's see if that is extremely. And this is a case where we get to use the exter and then im. Better and better. Extremely important, comma, because the internal memory retrieves information not in a rational or logical way. Retrieves information not in rational. I don't think rational requires the in. It doesn't, because it's already built into the shun sound. So all we need to do is just here we go rational. There we go. Is not in a rational or logical way, or logical way. Logical is, I don't think it requires the connected K. I think logical is the disjointed K. And that is correct. Logical requires the disjointed K. Because the internal memory retrieves information not in a rational or logical way, comma, but according to psychological rules. But according to I believe logical is just the O vowel, or the O hook, but let's check. ESY. Nope, it is the disjointed K as well. There's psychological. Okay? According to psychological rules. Fascinating. So the brain does not work according to logical or rational rules. It works according to psychological rules. Love that idea. The brain also doesn't store information neurally and objectively. Comma. Oh, so the brain also doesn't store information neurally. The brain, which is another reason why AI will not overtake us as humans, because we don't think in a way that a machine can think, which is to our benefit. It is our strength to be able to think psychologically, because it becomes unexpected. But when you're writing academically, you do need a certain level of objectivity, which is why you then create the structure. Okay, so, but according, the brain also doesn't store information neurally. Also doesn't store information neurally. Neurally. I don't know if neurally is in the dictionary. Neuro. It is not. We have neurosis. Oh, interesting. Neurotic. Neuroethics. So it curves back in. I'm going to need to add neurally to the list. It's neuro. So that's neuro. And then if we add an E, neural, neurally. Yes. So I'm going to add that to the lineup. Very nice. Moving on. It doesn't store information neurally and objectively, and objectively. Oh yes, this is the one where it's the disjointed. Speaking of the brain not working objectively, my memory is not quite objective either. It's very funny. Objectively. See if that's correct. Let's just look up objective, and there is objective, and then to make it ly, you just add a vowel. Objectively. Yes. The brain also doesn't store information neurally and objectively. We reinvent and rewrite our memory. We reinvent. Reinvent. So that's reinvent. Looks about right. Reinvent. Let me check and see what invent is. And that is correct. The in really should be much shorter. I can see that. And then reinvent is simply adding an RE in front. Reinvent. And rewrite. And rewrite our memory every time. Our memory every time we try to retrieve information. Every time we try to retrieve information. Period. The brain works with rules of thumb. the brain works with rules of thumb and makes things look as if they fit. And makes things look as if they fit when they don't. Sort of like a pair of clothes that doesn't quite work, even if they don't. It remembers events that never happened. It remembers events that never happened. H-A-P, and then it would be a disjointed happened like that. Let me go ahead and see if that is correct. Check happened. Very good. That's it. Okay. Let's go ahead and zoom down on the page a little bit. That never happened. Okay. Connect unrelated episodes to convincing narratives, comma. Connect unrelated episodes. Unrelated. So that is unrelated. Check and see if that is so. And that is unrelated. Yep. Unrelated episodes to convincing narratives. Episode. Episode? I mean, that would be the correct way, but it could be that it's shorter. Ah, very nice. That is exactly what it is supposed to be. Episodes. Unconvincing, unrelated episodes to convincing narratives. To convincing narratives. Narrative. In narratives. I need to check convincing first. That is convince. Good. There's convincing. And then narrative. Ah, this is a case where we get to have the disjointed V. And then tivs. A V on the end. There we go. Narratives. And completes incomplete images. And completes incomplete images. I need to check complete and then image. Ah, complete is not, it does not require the L. Does not require the L. One of the nice things is that even if I did leave that as complete, even though the brief form exists, someone would be able to make sense of it. Complete images. And completes incomplete, incomplete, and then images. Let me go ahead and check image. And it is the EMG. Image. is. All right, I will be back shortly. Right. Back at it. So let me go ahead and get in position. Ready to go. Here we go. We are proceeding. As the Duke said in, I believe it was Midsummer Night's Dream, proceed, Moon, proceed. Here we go. So, where were we? So, relatively dense. Let me minimize this page here. This is a relatively dense, that doesn't want to. minimize using the pen. All right, this is a relatively dense paragraph and a lot of interesting words that I haven't used in a while or haven't used at all. The brain, so it cannot help but see it completes incomplete images. It cannot help but see patterns and meaning everywhere. Here we go. It cannot help but see patterns. It cannot help but see patterns and meaning everywhere. One could almost call that the divine, even in the most random things. It cannot help but see patterns and meaning everywhere. Everywhere. Let me check where to see if that's correct. And we need to put a little A stroke underneath, so let's go everywhere. It cannot help but see patterns and meaning everywhere, comma, even in the most random things. Even in the most random things. Random. Interesting word, haven't had to use it before. We go random. Let's see what happens if we go random. Possibly that. Let's go ahead and check and see. Beautiful. That's what it is. Interesting how they always have the R's. If you look at the way that they write their R's in the textbook, they always swoop up a little bit more. So we go R swoop up to the A in and then dumb. There we go. Even in the most random things. And that reference was according Confiture Bern 2008. Confiture Bern, B-R-N, 2008. Going on. The brain, comma, as Kahneman writes, the brain as Kahneman, so that's Kahneman. Maybe a slight break between Kahn. In fact, that's interesting. You can do Kahneman. I mean, it's more Kahn, so let's see. Kahneman writes, comma, is a machine for jumping to conclusions. Go ahead and add another page below. This is now page 7. How to take smart notes. Page 11. No, section 11, page 7. Done. Back up. Common writes is, quote, a machine for jumping to conclusions. Machine for jumping to conclusions. And conclusion, if I'm not mistaken, is just KS, and then shun would be an SH added. But I need to check jumping first. Oh no, machine. No need for the E. And then jumping. Correct. For jumping, the only difference is we don't need the U-hook. Okay? And then 2 conclusions. Let's check conclusion. Double K. That's right. That is right. K, K, S, H. For jumping to conclusions. Unquote. And that one was Conman 2013, page 79. Conman 2013, page 79. And a machine that is designed for jumping to conclusions. And a machine that is designed, that's decided, so design probably just goes through, right? Designed, let's check that out, see? Flips upside down. So in order to do this most appropriately, we need to have the S like this, designed. There we go. And a machine that is designed for jumping to conclusions, for jumping to conclusions, is not the kind of machine you want to rely on. Is not the machine you want to rely on when it comes to facts and rationality. When it comes to facts and ration, and then a disjointed L, right? So we go ration and then disjointed L to do rationality. Okay, let's go ahead and check that. Grab the value. Rationality. Rationality. I wonder, let's take a look at ration. That's ration, and then lati, rationality would make sense for rationality. So I think I need to go ahead and update rationality. Rationality. To just make it a disjointed L. And then it would be perfect. So, moving on. Facts and rationality, comma or hyphen. At least you would want to counterbalance it. At least you would want to counterbalance. Is counter a disjointed K? Let me check. Counterbalance. it is a disjointed K and it's placed above the line of writing. That gives you a count. That gives you the prefix counter. So there's counter, and then balance, like so. At least you would want to counterbalance it. Lumen states as clearly as possible. Lumen states as clearly as possible, colon. It is not possible to think systematically without writing. It is not possible to think systematically without writing. That was according to Lumen. Move our reference down here a little bit. Lumen 1992, page 53. (1992), page 53. Close parenthesis. Most people still think about thinking. Most people still think about thinking as a purely internal process, as a pure, and then ly, so if we go purely, let's check that out. And that indeed is correct. So purely, we flip it around. As a purely internal, and that's internal process. Like so. And comma, and believe that the only function of the pen, and believe that the only function of the pen is to put finished thoughts on paper, is to put finished thoughts on paper. Richard Feynman once had a visitor in his house. Rich, and then ard, right? So this one would be, we flip around, right? To do up for Richard. So we do Richard Feynman. Once had a visitor in his house. Visitor. Visitor. In his house. Isn't his house? Oh. No. House is interesting. I haven't had to use it that often. But it's us and then it's hos. In his house. Comma. A historian who wanted to interview him. Historian who wanted No, I think wanted is just turned on its side, isn't it? Let's see what wanted is. Just a long stroke. Who wanted? A historian who wanted to interview him, who wanted to view him. I need to check historian before I go on, though. That indeed is historian. We just need the H. And the R doesn't need to curve down quite that much. I mean, it's a step in the right direction. But we can curve up and then out like that. And that gives us historian. And then wanted to, let me check, interview him. Also, undo. Also need to go ahead and move the whole affair down just a little bit to here, interview him. Let me check interview. Interview doesn't even require the in over the top. I'm going to leave it though, but because that would be interview. In fact, I'm going to change that in the dictionary to include it so that we are working along the same lines. There's interview. Interview him. And we go ahead and drop a period. When he spotted Feynman's notebooks, when he spotted Feynman's notebooks, when he spotted Feynman's notebooks, comma, he said how delighted he was to see such wonderful records of Feynman's thinking. He said how delighted he was to see such, quote, wonderful records of Feynman's thinking. Let me check wonderful. I know it's more simple. Yes. Ooh, so it's nf. We go nf. Such wonderful, quote, wonderful records and record. See if that's record. Could just be RK. Yes, just RKD. Such wonderful records of Feynman's thinking. Feynman's thinking. Close quote. Interesting. So that was a full paragraph and like half the page on page 92. So I need to go ahead and, ouch. I need to go ahead and read over what we have so far before we continue. I have about 4 minutes left anyway, so I'll probably be able to read through the paragraph and maybe read Feynman's response. So let me jump back. I'm looking for as we write notes with an eye towards existing notes. Searching back through the files, and here it is, as we write. Okay. Let me proceed. As we write notes with an eye towards existing notes, we take more into account than the information that is already available in our internal memory. That is externally, that is extremely important. Extremely important. Because the internal memory retrieves, I need to make this a plural, retrieves information not in a rational or logical way, but according to psychological rules. According to psychological rules. This needs to be pluralized. Okay? The brain also does not store information neurally and objectively. We reinvent and rewrite our memory every time we try to retrieve information. The brain works. Let's go ahead and fix works a little bit here. The brain works with rules of thumb and makes things look as if they fit when they don't. It remembers events that never happened. Connects unrelated episodes. Connects unrelated episodes to convincing narratives and completes incomplete images. It cannot help but see patterns and meaning even everywhere, even in the most random things. And that's according to Byrne, 2008. And the brain, as Kahneman writes, is, quote, a machine for jumping to conclusions. Kahneman 2013, page 79. And a machine that is designed for jumping to conclusions is not the machine you want to rely on when it comes to facts and rationality. It when it comes to facts and rationality, at least you would want to what? Counter. You would want to counterbalance it. Luhmann says Luhmann states as clearly as possible, it is not possible to think systematically without writing. Luhmann, 1992, page 53. Most people still think about thinking as a purely internal process and believe that the only function, let me check function. It curves down the func. Let's go ahead and fix that. The only function of the pen is to put finished thoughts on paper. Richard Feynman once had a visitor, and in his office, in his office, not house. And office is OS, isn't it? Is it? Oh, it's the other way, OS. So house is this, and office, it is OS for office. Let's check. Yes, in his office. A historian who wanted to interview him, when he spotted Feynman's notebooks, he said how delighted he was to see such, quote, wonderful records of Feynman's thinking, end of quote, or end of paragraph. All right, and with that, I am done for right now. I have another set, another 3-hour set to complete at the end of this session. I'm gonna go take a quick break, and then I will be back with more studies. So thank you very much. Once again, this was the demonstration of using Gregg shorthand in the educational and academic endeavor, and it was the copywork of Sonke Ahrens' book, How to Take Smart Notes. As you can see, we're very, very slow. We slowly work through. What was it today we did, or just now? Where did we start? Did we start Trollope novel, right? Was that last? So we did about 2 or 3 pages almost, so that's pretty good. Anyway, I'll be back, so you guys take care, and I'll see you in a little bit. Bye-bye.